live. It's super relaxed.
Okay,
we're live. Fantastic. Well, welcome to the studio, Pavan.
thank you.
Good. Can you do the honors and just give us an official clap? Let's go.
So what's it? Lights, camera, action.
That's it.
Here we go.
You've done this before.
No, second time holding that. Yeah.
You're natural. Super. So just to kick things off, I'm going to get straight into it. Welcome back to 110-100, the show where we break down big ideas with leaders who have operated at the highest level. Today, I'm joined with Pavan, and he's managing partner, Bright Beans Accountancy.
That's right.
Pavan helps agencies and tech businesses stay compliant, improve cash flow, and make smarter decisions through bookkeeping, VAT, payroll, year-end accounts, and tax efficiency. Pavan, it's great to have you here.
Likewise. Thank you, Rashpal.
So, I always want to start the conversation with a bit of an icebreaker. Sometimes, we've had a busy day, had a busy week, and our mind's all over the place. But, I really, just to get things going, what do you prefer, tea or coffee?
Tea. Kadak chai, to be precise.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that one.
Oh, it's just from back home, right? Anytime it's a pick-me-up. You either tired, hungry, lazy, whatever you're feeling, sluggish, just any opportunity, any reason, just ask for a cup of chai and just instant pick me up. In the UK it's a bit different, but luckily we have venues, like chai walas and all of those. So manage with them pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. You know what? You hit a sweet spot for me, because normally it's tea or coffee.
Yeah.
And even at home, Mrs. Jagdeep, she likes tea. I prefer cha. I don't drink tea. I drink cha.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Bit more effort.
A bit more effort,
But it's worth it.
Absolutely. What do you prefer? Beach holidays or city breaks?
Beach, definitely. I'm a water sign. Yeah. It's a born coastal city.
Okay.
Yeah. Beach always, all the way.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs, but I've got 2 cats. That's because of the missus. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Missus is but to be fair, I'm now turning more towards. Getting to know more about cats. I've always been a dog person.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. What do you prefer, Netflix binge watch or a board game?
Oh, you know what? Past 2 years, neither, because I've had a little one, right? So yeah, anyone asked me what's the last movie you watched, I can't remember. But I think it was the Money Heist. That was the series which I watched
Netflix,
ages ago. That was, I can't remember. But if it was one of them.
I remember watching that. That was good.
Yeah.
It was a good one. Awesome. Pineapple on your pizza?
No. No, not for me.
Not for you?
Yeah.
Okay, noted. Well, Pavan, thank you for breaking the ice for me. Just getting to know you a little bit better, and for everybody watching and listening as well. They know if you're ever out on a Friday night with you, not to put pineapple on your pizza.
Yeah, if I'm incredibly hungry, maybe.
All
but
right.
Otherwise,
Okay.
prefer not.
In desperation.
Yes.
Good. So for everybody watching and listening, tell us in a brief sentence or so, who do you serve and what problem do you solve?
I go by the title of boring accountant, just to set the expectations. And this was back in around the COVID time, where each business was choosing a type of avatar or a type of character to go with what they do. And for me, it just stuck. So this is what I do. I'm good at numbers. I'm good with money. I help businesses manage their cash flow and finances. It's mainly agency business owners. And it just ended up being, whether it's creative agencies or recruitment agencies, and also on the side ended up having tech businesses as clients. And these are individuals, what I like to call as, who are afraid or think or are embarrassed to ask what they think are the simple or should be known accounting questions, So it's kind of like just breaking it down in simple terms for them and keeping it simple, basically. Yeah.
I love that. Tell me, what are the most common mistakes that you see agencies and tech founders making?
The big one is obviously leaving it too late. It's always a deadline, just before. That's always the trigger, is that, I need to get my tax return done. And that most of the time the date has already passed. Like for example, your personal tax year. Now it's perfect timing, right? 31st of March is the year end for many companies.
Sure.
And now is the time that they should be having the conversations with their accountant to say, okay, Mr. Accountant, can you tell me how much profit do I have in my business? What can I do to reduce my profitability? What I mean by that is perhaps there's opportunities of, company expenses around pensions, which can reduce their corporation tax bill. Maybe there's capital allowances, machinery that they can purchase. All of that reduces their tax bill. But what they do is, what ends up happening is, get bogged down in the day to day. And before you know it, 31st of March is gone. And then you have 9 months to prepare your return, which is 31st of December. And 30th of December, the accountant gets a call. Oh, I need to do my tax return. Can you do it for me? We have 12 hours to go. And the accountant, it's like a post-mortem, right? You're just like taking what's already happened. And that's, I think, the biggest mistake for me, is leaving it too late and like almost a backward-looking exercise. It needs to be a forward-looking exercise. You need to look ahead in terms of what your goals are, what your plans are, and then bring that into the financials, so you have that visibility. Yeah.
So it sounds like the problem is that everyone's too reactive as opposed to proactive.
Definitely, yeah.
That's a hard shift though, isn't it? It's easier said than done.
It's I mean, to be fair, people are busy and, numbers don't come naturally to business owners. It's very easy to procrastinate. It's similar to like, I think, fitness, right? So if you were to say to me that, you lose the same amount of weight by doing 5 miles once a week versus 1 mile every day, I'd rather do the 5 miles, but actually the 1 mile every day will build up the consistency, will build up my stamina and all of these things, which are always at the back of my mind. So you see, for me, it's more of I liken it to like a personal fitness.
Of course, I love it. Yeah. It's having that habit, that daily habit, that daily exercise. Get into a good habit, make it habitual, and then it makes it easier in the long run.
It need not even be daily. It can be monthly, depending on the size of the business. If you're like a one-man band, even quarterly. It's perfect time if you're VAT registered just before the VAT return.
Okay.
Look at your finances. It's give you an opportunity, because VAT return is like a mini, year-end accounts. It's because you bring in everything in there. So it's a good opportunity to see where your business is at, how much money you're making, how much you can set aside, how much whether for tax bills, whether it's for your own goals.
How interesting. So talk about tax efficiencies. What does that mean to a small agency? You already touched on it, that if you're proactive, you should be having that conversation at the end of March, so you can see your position, and if you've got lots of profit, you can start to plan to make investments, so you don't have to give it away to the tax man. Is that the best way? Is that the good start? That's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think maybe it'll be good if I share my view of looking at the UK tax system, and I'm going to try and keep it simple, and it's my take on how I learned and how I explain it to my clients who are not accounting background and who just want to know more about how UK tax system works. So this is not the whole legislation by any, or even a fraction of it, but it's just my kind of visual. So if you were to visualize 3 pillars, right?
Sure.
And pillar 1 and pillar 3 involve you spending money, liable from their perspective. So what I would like to categorize in pillar 1 is your bog standard. Are you claiming your expenses, whether it's use of home, whether it's your mileage? Are you putting through, pension contributions through the company?
Sure.
All of that sits in pillar 1. So remember I said you're spending money. It's very clear, very easily verifiable from HMRC that this is the real rule, black and white. Are you within the allowance? Documented. It's well documented. Yes. It's in black and white, if you like. Minimal gray areas around, what the rules are. So things like I said, mileage, use of home, expensing it to the business, having annual event expenses. So that's £150 per director per year. So imagine that comes off the company profit. So you pay less corporation tax. And if you spent it from your personal account, it's also personal tax benefit as well. So all of that sits under pillar 1. are, and so pillar 3 would be around long-term tax planning. So let's say you want to set up a holding company. You want to set up a completely separate entity to have maybe invest in a property at a later date. It's kind of like something. Why I say you need to spend on is because obviously you're going to pay advisors. You need to have the long game in mind. There is tax efficiencies involved, but it's more about thinking long term. And then come the pillar 2 in between, which is the most interesting. Is that's where the value add conversations with the accountant comes in. Is where you might say to your accountant, okay, I want to pay as less tax as possible. Can you help? What are the ways can you help me pay as less tax? One of them straight away is just planning around timing. So we spoke about capital allowances, wherein you time your purchase of your machinery. It has direct impact on your tax bill. Dividend. So again, 31st of March is a good time to plan how much dividend you're going to take from the business. So if, you're above the 50K amount, you're above the basic rate tax band, you're on a higher tax band. So you sit down with your accountant and plan as to how much tax you want to pay. It opens up conversations, things like R&D claims, all of that, all of those aspects. So I don't know whether that's kind of like covered, I think broadly what we touch upon on daily conversations with clients, typical questions around what are the expenses I can claim, or it could be they see something on social media about holding companies. Straight away I get a phone call, can you tell me how do I set up a holding company? And then it's about just talking them through what needs to be done. So to answer your question, I don't know if I've answered it, is that when it comes to tax efficiencies, we go through these various pillars, these various stages. First, we make sure the absolute basic bare minimum is covered off. Are all the expenses being expensed? If the director has spent from their own account, they need to be paid back. Then we go to pillar 2 about their goals and their timing as to when they wouldn't mind withdrawing dividends. And then if there's sufficient reserves and they're able to play the long game, then we take them to pillar 3 and talk about things like holding companies and trusts and things like that.
Very interesting. Okay. But it's helpful for me as well to understand it in that framework that you've shared. Definitely makes more sense now, just having that clarity of what the different pillars mean and how we can start to compartmentalize, how I'm planning the money to come in and out of the business and how to document it.
Yes, absolutely.
How interesting. Well, moving on from that, let's talk about bookkeeping. And even though this is not sponsored by Xero or QuickBooks, it should be. So if anyone's out there that wants to sponsor us, then get in touch. But talking about bookkeeping and systems, it's all about speed. It's all about having clean books. What does good bookkeeping look like? What do you recommend there?
Again, it comes down to just having the right habits in place. So with technology, it's become so easy. When you're out and about, there are apps that integrate with your camera, whether it's Xero, Free Agent, QuickBooks. You have partner integrations as well. It's just about getting into that habit of, okay, I'm out and I bought this particular piece of kit or whatever it may be. I know I'm going to lose this or it's going to go in the wash. So I quickly take a picture. And then it's straight away optical character recognition, sends it straight to your software, your accountant will review it. So those are the kind of habits that, is without much effort, it gets you started on having a good bookkeeping practice. And then also knowing what sometimes when you leave it too late is that you forget what you spent these on. Like, for example, Amazon is a good instance, is that we're using Amazon for a lot of purchases nowadays. And if we do it regularly, we know what we spent on, whether VAT was included or not. It's a very quick fire way of, whether it's you doing it or your accountant. It's about doing it as soon as you can, whatever is realistic. Some people like to take a Friday afternoon, an hour. Some people do it once a month. Some people do it with their VAT return. Because it's very well aligned to, there's a deadline coming up. And then I need to get all of this in before the deadline and time it along with that. So
with regards to, clean books, good bookkeeping, How quickly should a founder actually know their numbers? Because that knowing your numbers is the kind of the bloodline of the business.
Yeah.
And how important is that with regards to bookkeeping and cash flow and clarity of reporting?
I would say for anyone, at least on a monthly basis, it's good to know where you stand. A month is not too long and neither too short. It's simply because if you're talking of VAT registered businesses, it's usually every quarter.
Of course.
And within the month, you realize, okay, you've got 2 more months to go. And within those 2 months, it helps with a number of things, whether it's just keeping your books in order, knowing how much cash you have left in the business. You have, the remaining 2 months to work on, and not leaving it until the deadline. I think that's the most important, because with software, as much as they make our life easy, they can also make it risky, because within a matter of few clicks you can just complete your VAT return and you wouldn't know you won't have a clue of what you've actually submitted. It's because it's so easy. There's no sort of the software companies want you to stay with them as a client, and if they're going to put you off by putting checks in place and causing you panic, because people get stressed around if something doesn't work, then you would unsubscribe and you'll be like, I don't need this software. And software companies don't want that. No. They want to make your life easy. They want to, at the same time, also fill their pockets. But what ends up happening is they just get a whole lot of people who are doing their accounts and returns, all of it. And even the regulation doesn't help. So, in the UK, you can do your own returns up to, I believe it's like £10 million turnover. It's a different category, but it's a big amount. You have to reach before you need an auditor. So,
and that gives an opportunity for error.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, if from a HMRC perspective, it's how much of tax unpaid, how much of being lapse basically from the taxpayer, how much of missed income.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just moving on, VAT, payroll, because I want to make this conversation really helpful to not only to me for selfish reasons, but also to everybody watching and listening as well. From a VAT point of view, payroll, compliance, and making sure it's stressless. What makes VAT cost businesses the most money? What's the biggest problem that you're seeing agencies make?
Firstly, just started out on the wrong scheme. So with VAT, again, with all these software, it's so easy. Click, you're on the standard scheme, and before you know it, so there's no optionality around when you want your scheme to start. What type of scheme are you? What type of scheme is good for your business? Because remember, we said that the more options you have, the more stress it causes the person who's completing the VAT return. So without any advice, very soon you're just you've set yourself up for failure, if you want to call it, because choosing the wrong scheme. I'll give you an example. If you are a small business owner with very limited costs in your business and you're charging VAT clients, you've crossed the threshold of 90k, you're charging VAT to your clients and very minimal expenses, there's a scheme called flat rate scheme. So it's ballpark, it can be anywhere from 10 to 16.5%. So what it is, you're charging your client 20%, but you're paying 16.5 or 15%, whatever it is your rate is with HMRC. So just choosing the wrong scheme itself is, I think, that's the first mistake that people make. There's another scheme you call it a scheme, is a method of how you prepare your returns, whether it's accrual basis or cash basis. To put it simply, cash basis is you only pay your VAT when you get paid. It's so important. But the software by default, you're on the standard accrual basis. What it means is that you've invoiced a client, you haven't been paid, but HMRC wants their cut, of that. 20%. Of that. And what ends up happening is the client's got a VAT bill and they haven't got paid. Huge cash flow problem, because you're paying VAT. Of course. You don't know if you're going to get paid. You don't know what the terms are going to end up. So with recruitment agencies, there's something called chargeback, right? If the candidate leaves after a certain amount of, within a short span of time, the agency then needs to pay back the fees back to the client. It causes a lot of stress. So these are the kind of cash flow planning. So if you don't set up your VAT scheme correctly on the first instance, you're just heading for problems later on. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't that? Because a lot of people sometimes aren't aware that there's a variable rate, and they just think it's just 20%. And then, like you said, the two other schemes of paying on invoice or pay when cash is collected.
Yes.
That's also really interesting with regards to VAT, because the life and blood is not your turnover revenue, it's cash flow. It's cash flow that kills us as a business, and you need that overdraft or facility to make sure that money's coming in, but you don't have the money right now. And how do you make sure you're fluid? Yeah, which is half the challenge of staying in business.
This is the point which gets so many business owners out of business, if you like. It's the cash flow. It's not so much the turnover. They'll bring in the clients. They'll hit the 6-7 figure turnover, but then if without proper planning, having too high expenses, withdrawing too much out of the business, too early withdrawals from the business, not setting aside enough for taxes, these are the kind of pitfalls which down the line I'm
just going to jump in there, and again, this is for all our listeners and people that are watching online today live, and I don't know, Damanvi, if you can check, have we got any comments? And if there are any comments, there's no comments here. Okay, we should ask them live. Good but did you have a question, or did you? Okay. What I was going to say was that for people that are watching online, put your comments in. I'll reach back out to you, because there's going to be some people that want to ask you more questions. For sure. So we'll share all your details on the show notes, in the descriptions as well. So if there's further questions about people, because sometimes people get obviously money is very personal, and they don't always want to disclose it in a public space. So feel free to DM Pavan, as long as you don't mind, and email you and get that extra detailed advice on, am I doing the right thing, am I doing the wrong thing? And cash flow is always, that's a challenge at the best of times. We've kind of had our own fun and games over the years, and we still do sometimes.
Every business.
That good contracts, good value, but it's the cash flow that kills that. How do you manage that on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, with a view of is a project fee a better project opportunity for us, or a retainer model better for us? And we've kind of found for us sweet spot is a bit of both. Retainers are great. You've got that regular monthly income that comes in to give us that consistency, but every other month when we've got the ad hoc project as well, that just gives us a bit of a boost, a bit of a bonus on top. Can't always plan for that. It's the retainers that give us that consistency, but that's what kind of keeps us alive. But it's not easy. It's challenging.
And how do you measure it? Is it how often? How did you come to this conclusion? Is it after an episode?
Absolutely. Great question. We came to it through the difficulty of projects. So in the creative spaces, making videos, it's peaks and troughs. We can be super busy, then super quiet, super busy, then super quiet. And we realize there's got to be a better way, because it gets really stressful. When you're busy, it's stressful. When it's quiet, it's even more stressful. So we thought we've got to find a better way. And we looked at different industries, and in the marketing world seemed to have managed that better by having relationships with clients, building this retainer model to say, well, let's not make one piece of marketing a project. Let's work in partnership with the business and have that marketing resource and service over 12 months, if not longer. Then we looked at the web industry, and even though designing a website was very project based, what came out of the web industry was SEO, and you had that ongoing service to say, well, the website build is a one-off build, but you need that monthly service, and that suddenly became a really good way to prop up that business and that relationship with the clients. So we were scratching our heads saying, that's really clever. How can we build that similar kind of model into the work we do? So video production on its own. So when we talk, the kind of partners that we have, clients we have, we don't do a project. We don't make 1 or 2 videos. We make 100 videos. So Typically, that's with businesses that have a growth mindset. They've got growth on their kind of agenda. They've got a 1 to 3 year plan on how that growth looks like.
Yeah.
And then we align perfectly with that, because anyone that wants to grow realizes one video is not enough.
Yeah.
You need a library of content, you need a plan, and that strategic plan needs to align with business goals and revenue goals.
Yeah.
So we kind of found a sweet spot that works for us and works for businesses.
Yeah, no, really interesting. I think creatives agencies are in a good space because you have that ability to have these retainers in there. There are some businesses, recruitment agencies as an example, also see this exact same peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
Some months, you get a good client, needs loads of placements, good money coming in, but then some months it's crickets, it's like absolutely no activity at all.
Yeah.
But the key is really panning it out through the year. If you've had good months, set aside enough for your taxes, set aside enough for yourself. So when winter's around the corner, you have that covered, and then it's going to be back up again. So the idea is having that visibility every so often.
Absolutely.
At least, like, coming back to that, every month, have that catch-up call, or just review your accounts to see where you are at, how long are you going to last. You want to call it runway, you want to call it breathing space, whatever word you want. Yeah.
So talking about runway, it's a great point. That is, what's the rule of thumb? 3 months, 6 months?
Oh, that's it's not set in stone. I think because it's so easy. So many people online, they say 6 months. It's very dependent on. I've seen people with nothing. There's more. This is not with my accounting hat. It's just like what I've seen day to day in businesses. People who put in all their effort, who have no fallback, burnt their ships, if you like. There's a phrase, no fallback, no, runway in the business. Put all of their energy and efforts. 2 months in, and they're breaking even already. Yes, they're meeting their living expenses. They're starting to build up on profits, looking at future. You could have businesses, having 6 months, and then 6 months down the line, where they're having to remortgage, they're having to, so it's a very how long is a piece of string kind of thing. So I wouldn't put a number on it. It's a hard one. I know people often have that, and they want to know how much do they actually need to. 6 months is not a bad number if you're, if you have a MVP, if you want to call it, viable product, try it, test it, something is could work, should work. Your living expenses, at least if they're covered, and if it's not a capital intensive, wherein you don't need to spend a lot on, your fixed costs, machinery and things like that, you're good. You have to set aside 6 months. It'll give you enough traction to see whether it's working or not, and then worst case scenario, you can always go back to
from my experience. Okay, so what if the dreaded happens? You get a knock on the door. It's HMRC. HMRC. They knock on the door. What should you do? Panic strikes. Have you got any guidance on what you should say or not say?
Yeah, well, I think I have not heard of late HMRC turning up without communication.
Okay, good.
So you often get a brown envelope to first to communicate with you what the ask is, whether they've spotted something that is unusual, anomalies, what they want clarification on, and brown letters itself, the envelopes from HMRC cause panic. So we get these calls a lot. It's like, I've got this HMRC. Sometimes they don't even want to open the envelope until we meet. It's that amount of stress.
That much anxiety.
Exactly. So, what I say to them is, it's not always bad news. It's not always, an issue. You just need to read what the ask is. And end of the day, you see, HMRC is an organization also where people are working 9 to 5. They want clarity on what the ask is. They want to finish their work, get home, do what needs to be done. So if you're providing the information that has been asked in a manner which they understand and they're satisfied, that's all you need to do. So it's not something where you need to get overly worried about. And if you have an advisor, it's perfect, wherein you have somebody representing you. You don't even need to be part of, the initial conversations. if it goes, to a certain, well escalated, maybe you will be, but for a fair bit, you don't need to be involved in the actual conversation. So we do investigations from HMRC. We represent the client, respond fully for the client, get a resolution, and client doesn't even need to pick up the phone and speak to HMRC for such instances.
Sure. Yeah. So it's not like Ofsted inspection for schools or education environments, which can be quite full on and stressful.
To be fair, with VAT there can be.
Okay.
Yeah, there can be, surprise visits in the sense there, suspect, VAT is not being declared properly. So because I work mainly with service-based businesses, it's not so much of an issue, but your high street, people who deal with a lot of cash, construction companies, things like that, yes, they could have a situation where you have a surprise visit, or it would normally happen as a ghost customer, or, we had that in McDonald's, I think, within the company policy itself. So somebody impersonating as an employee impersonating just to test quality of staff.
Mystery shopper,
exactly. Yeah. So it's on those lines is what would happen. So they would need that evidence to be able to prove that, there's something being played on, there's some foul play or...
Sure. So far I've talked about some of the challenges and problems that a lot of us agency folk experience. I want to move over to the more positive side of business, and a lot of our audience, a lot of people that we kind of serve with regards to our clients and the audience that we serve as well, it's all about the leadership, CEOs, managing directors of businesses, and the conversation is all around growth.
Yep.
So when planning for growth, what's a simple approach to building budgets and forecasts that can actually be helpful for founders? Have you got any advice or guidance on that?
Off late, it's been, this used to be a very difficult question because, you need to have certain level of skill to know how to prepare a budget, how to prepare a forecast, what the differences are. But off late with AI, whatever it is you use, whether GPT or Claude, it's become so easy, wherein you literally are uploading your past data, whether you literally go on to Xero, click on reports, go to general ledger, detail, upload the data and ask AI to present to you the information, whether it's a forecast, what are the ways that you would forecast this business. And it's become so easy now. It's just a question of now executing on the back of that. Ideally, you want to be looking, a forecast, as the word itself suggests, is forward looking. So if you have the goals, you have your end vision in mind, whether it's an exit, whether it's retirement, whatever it may be, selling the business, you have to work backwards, and that's what a forecast enables you to do. You are able to easily monitor how well you're doing each month, each quarter, whatever timeline works for you, and that's essentially what this does as a tool for you. So definitely, I would say, use a tool now. There's so many available. It's just a question of feeding in the data. You can use it for things like, checking any abnormal expenses, subscriptions that you're not using. It's become so clever now that, there's options, it's endless.
That's so interesting. And even though we use AI every day in the work that we do, I never thought about doing it in that manner. The challenge, and I welcome our audience and people to comment in on this point as well about security, because and privacy of that data. Yeah. Because I think it's really clever that we could put our reports into ChatGPT or something of a sort and ask questions and it give us the results. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to know if that data that we're putting in, is it visible to anybody else anywhere else? Yeah. Or is there a way that we can do that using, I don't know, something like Notebook LLM, which is going to be a little bit more secure and private because it's not getting shared with the internet, which it probably still is, even though they say it's not.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a security or a privacy concern there, but yeah, that makes logical sense now you say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not a tech expert, but what I've been told is, like, if you're using any of the enterprise versions of these AI platforms out there, that's where you have, complete control and privacy of the data that you post in. But having said that, it doesn't stop you from using your own data and redacting, removing the personal information. So end of the day, you just want an output which you can use. Maybe you are afraid to ask. We come across so many business owners who feel that it's too stupid of a question to ask, but actually everyone has the same question. Time and again, you can't imagine the same questions get asked, and it comes with so much of resistance and feeling of embarrassment. But actually, it's common. It's not your day job, so you're not meant to know, difference between a budget and a forecast, or what you should be, panning out through the year and things like that. So
Well, if there's anything I've learned over the years, is no question's a silly question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you should ask the question. So I shared on with regards to pricing, margins, and health. I spoke about our journey where before we had the challenge of working on projects, and we've evolved to what seems to be serving us now of working with projects and retainers. Have you got any advice on any other models that come to mind that you're seeing that actually that's quite clever, or over and above the project and retainer model? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Not so much of a model, but the power of leveraging, upselling, within your existing client base. We just spoke about this, right? Somebody comes to you for video. They're coming to you for one piece of work. But actually, you're doing 10 other. You can service them end to end if you wanted.
Of course.
They've already built up this relationship for you. So this is not so much of a model, financial, from an accounting perspective, but the opportunity and the cost of acquisition to get a new client. How I'm sure you're aware how difficult is it to get just to have a conversation now these days with somebody who you haven't spoken to before.
Of course.
So if you already have a client in your books, maybe the opportunity to say that, actually, is this something you want to explore? We can help you with this. It's such, from a ROI perspective, with so little effort, you're getting such a big jump. The only thing that you need to worry about the client is not too big that is, all your work is focused on them. That's a different, you're tipping on the complete extreme other end. Course. But most cases, it's a question of, actually, you've done my long form content. I want you to do a shoot one day. I'm going out and about. Can you, we're doing an event. Can you help us with this? So just that's I think one of the ways where you can grow your revenue with. I'm always in the favor of keep your costs minimal. Once you keep your costs minimal, the upside is open for you to It
is open, absolutely. It was ironic we had that conversation earlier on. We as a Box Media, we're a video marketing agency, and we create content, video content, and once we kind of partner with the right business that understands, video is the most powerful medium at the moment in the world that we live in to communicate and tell my story to my audience, and let video attract the right audience, and the wrong audience will disqualify themselves because they just won't like the content. Then once that kind of like beds in and that relationship is strong, it's easier for us to say or it's easier for us to offer should the need come. Well, if you've got a live event, we can support you with them live events. If you've got other marketing projects or campaigns that need to get delivered off the back of what we're already doing, it's much easier for us to offer that. We don't go out talking to businesses saying, we can do events. We can do them, but that's not the first foot we put forward. So really interesting that, and it's good that you bring that back into the conversation.
Yeah, as much as people say, it's it's not what you know, it's who you know. If you are dealing with a client, they're happy with your work, they're going to refer you on to people. You build your network that way, and businesses that come, the business that comes in through these channels, low resistance, high profit margin, everyone's winning, so that's it's one of the things that I think every business should consider, but so many businesses are focused on not to say it's a bad thing, but let's say advertising, so going straight out to market, but you haven't leveraged what you have, right in front of you. Yeah.
Food for thought. Yeah. Absolutely. Very good. Okay, last question before we move into a rapid fire quick question. And then obviously you might have some questions for me if you want. If not, I've got even some more notes on my phone. So still in the theme of growth and that growth mindset, scaling. So just look at my notes here. So, what should a business get right before hiring, taking debt, or pushing for the next stage in growth?
Oh, this is a big one. Ideally, you want to be in a space where you have documented your systems. I mean, that's like the ideal state. But really, if you have enough runway for, okay, I've got, let's just say, we spoke about peaks and troughs in the business. Let's just say I can handle 2 quarters of downtime. Yeah. So with that, which tells us that, okay, you have enough to pull through if anything was to go wrong. So you don't want to be investing in something where, or let's say a hire wherein 2 months down the line you don't have enough to pay the individual. You haven't planned for your cash flow. So if you have enough runway in the business, then you can take these calls as to, okay, I know this business is clearly working. I know what work is going to take, what I can take off my shoulders and give it to another individual. My rate of pay is, let's say, £250 an hour. This person is charging me £50 an hour. It's a no-brainer wherein, I can do more of what I enjoy, and this individual can get better at what they're doing. That way I grow in terms of scaling. That's when this individual will then jump to, let's say, a manager level, 100 or 150 pound an hour, and then you'll have another junior. And then one thing leads to the other. Before you know it, then you are a larger business where, you have people, chain of command, if you want to call it that way. So definitely, yeah, that's how I would look at it.
That's really helpful advice, because I think a lot of people just think, I'm too busy and I need more people, but they don't actually think back at the numbers. And we go back to the runway conversation and that planning, that forecasting. What do my books look like, and what are the numbers telling me, and how can I make more strategic decisions rather than knee-jerk decisions? So,
another thing that I think, just to mention there, is that business owners have, so as much, and I'm guilty of that as well, is that we don't charge the business the price that we would. So my replacement, if I was to go get in the market,
we undervalue ourselves.
Undervalue massively.
Hugely.
And if we do that from day one, and we are setting aside, it need not be a salary, because obviously tax efficiency perspective, you want to have that mix. But if from day one you want to have that, you set aside, you take, there's books on this, right? It's called Profit First. One of them, that's an example. Setting aside enough for, who would replace you, what would it cost as your replacement, and then going out and finding somebody, and then scaling the business is what I would suggest. Yeah.
And I think it's such a good exercise to do, because we always undervalue ourselves, and then we always kind of struggle to think, I can't find good enough people. I can't. It's a challenge. That's another one of many challenges when it comes to growth things. Pavan, that's been really helpful. It's been really valuable, and I hope our audience has taken lots of value out of this. We're not done yet, by the way. A few more questions. These are a bit more quick fire questions, really. Just a gentle reminder. The whole purpose of this conversation is to be helpful, not only to me, but also to everybody who's watching and listening as well, so that they can go away and thinking about, actually, this really resonates with me. There's a bit of a gap in my thinking and my understanding. They can go back to their accountant. They might have incumbent relationships and accountants supporting them, and have them conversations. And if they struggle and they can't, they should absolutely ask you for that advice. And if some more business comes out of it, I'm sure you'll welcome it.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So about your journey and your business, over the last 12 months or in your whole journey, what win have you had that you didn't celebrate enough?
Wow. What win have I had that I haven't celebrated? I think with having my team, so there was a point of time where I was, call it a control freak, where I wanted to see end to end, with my subcontractors who I work alongside. We would have hours of Teams calls and going through step by step what needed to be done. And it was pretty much, I would rather do the return myself and accounts myself. But it's just that I had the luxury of somebody else doing it, and I was watching them, do it. There came up, I think it's all thanks to my daughter, because ever since 2 years now in, I've started to, because of, how it is being a parent, shortage of time, you have no option but to let it go. Yeah. And now that I've done that, it's now reached a point where I'm like, okay, go out and do this, prepare these accounts and return, and I'll review it in my time. So this is exactly what's happened. So the production delivery is completely done without me being there, screen sharing, spending that much time in a much better way. As much as we think that we are very good at what we do, there are people who are doing this, for hours on end and doing this for several years. Mm-hmm. So they are in a better position. Mm-hmm. So this is something that now that you've asked the question, I haven't celebrated this because this has now just freed up my time, given me more time with my family. It's such a big one, actually. Yeah. It's huge. Yeah.
The art of delegation.
Yes. Letting go. Yeah. I like to, the way I put it is, yeah.
Very good. Well done. Well, congratulations to your daughter for bringing that to you. Super. Which loss have you experienced that has helped shape the way you work or some of the habits that you have?
Loss from a perspective of, I wouldn't call it a loss per se, but just leaving employment, that cushion around that safety net that you have every month, you have that paycheck coming in, no matter what, your sickness, your performance, whatever it may be, you're getting that monthly paycheck coming in to pay your bills. Moving from then, so remember I just started before COVID, so thinking that, I will have sufficient business to take me forward. It didn't happen straight away. I didn't predict that. As much as we talk of forecasting, and that was an abnormal event, which I think in our lifetime is one which not many people have predicted, or not anyone who I know has predicted. So I would say that taught me about, that's why the question when you asked me about how long is enough for savings is because I thought I had it covered. But, these events, these life events teach you that, sometimes it's not all about, yes, it's good to have clarity around your numbers and it helps you make decisions, but the drive and what you have put in from an experience perspective outweighs everything else that you do. They all need to go hand in hand is how I don't know if that answered your question, but that's, I would say.
I think there's something in there. What are you saying no to right now?
How do I put it politely? I think it's all about energy now. Now with limited time, you want to focus as much on areas where you can add value.
Sure.
There can be conversations around transactions, the relationship, and how much do you charge for a tax return? If the conversation starts with a price, we are not for such type of clients. There's a huge market out there that can serve that need. So definitely, we are more, I would like to call it, I have this funny example, I don't know if it's relatable, but when you're dating so many, before you get married, if you've been around dating, the way I like to put it is that, our ideal clients are people who have dated around, and we are the keepers. Yeah, so we are the one who they settle down with. Okay, we've seen all the good, bad, and ugly, and now we want to settle down with this person who will look after us.
Sure.
So we want people who look at us that way. Ideally, who have had their fair share of experiences, and we look after them.
Good,
Yeah.
interesting analogy. But I get it. Do you have a daily habit?
Daily habit.
Yeah.
Habit of late, I have started journaling.
Okay.
So again, using AI just in terms of, I used to find it hard about just writing my thoughts. So now I've just have this template of prompts, that questions that I answer. Starts off with, what I'm thankful about, what are the things I'm going to get done today, what are the things that are going to stop me, how am I going to avoid it. About 10 questions in just a half of an A4. And then a similar set of questions towards the end of the day. What did I get done? What did I learn? What am I going to do tomorrow? Because it kind of helps you plan your day for the next day.
Absolutely.
So this is a habit that I've started doing. It's so powerful. I didn't imagine that, makes you so productive. Every day is something new. When I first created this template, I was like, but I'm going to use the same answers every day, because it's the same,
Same questions.
But actually, same questions.
Yeah.
But actually, every day is different.
Yeah,
some days I'm thankful about, I had a fantastic sleep. Another day it could be that it's a beautiful morning, or it's so varied, and we just
That's so cool. You'll have to share your list of questions.
Yeah, sure.
I'll have to give you a go. How long have you been doing that?
Recently, it's been only about a few weeks now.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, so
I'm just keeping it. I tried everything. I tried digital. I've tried, but for me, it's all about hard. I think I'm kind of old school like that. I need to put pen to paper. There's something with that brain physical connection, wiring, whatever you want to call it, is that when I'm writing it down, I feel like, okay, this needs to get done, and keep it minimal, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself, and then because end of the day you're going to look at it and say, oh, you know what, this wasn't done.
I totally agree with you. I think there's some beauty in writing it, and I think there's something therapeutic. There's definitely some science there when you think about it and you write it, and the processing on how that hits you, I think is much deeper. I think what would be super interesting is to do that and actually then scan each page every day, and then at the end of the week, month, quarter, year,
that's the key.
Is to see
that's the key.
What are the themes here? What are the common traits of challenges and wins, etc. To that's really true. Please do share them questions. I think I might try to jump onto that one.
Yeah.
What does this next quarter or this next 12 months look like for you?
Next 12 months. So focusing more on business. So off late, as much as people moving towards tech, we're seeing the more need for physical presence, face-to-face meetings. So what's working well is now I have a client who I visit every Monday. Yeah. So obviously the room for more days in the week to do client visits. I'm there the entire day. Everything, all of their accounting related, whether it's queries, bookkeeping, just to be present on site, see what's going on day to day.
Sure.
Where before we did it remotely, now the demand is going towards more, we want physical presence at least once in a while. So it's better, it's good for us because, more face-to-face presence from a profitability perspective as well, pricing perspective, more value add. So I think, towards the next 12 months is going to be more of focus around being more client visits and being on site, as opposed to, because there's so much saturation in the market of this offshore work that's been done. People who are disconnected, not to say it's, they have their own specialisms, but if you're using them for, tax advice, planning, goal planning, things like that, it's not conducive. You want to be sitting, which is why we're having this, I've driven up here, we're having these conversations because of this feel of,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, there's definitely a benefit for working remotely, working distance, and we don't, but it's definitely come on our radar. But we do know of quite a lot of firms and agencies that are using accountancy firms that are abroad.
Yeah.
Whether they're in India, Pakistan, in Philippines, or other countries, just for economics.
Yeah.
And I think bookkeeping, absolutely, why not?
Yeah.
As long as they know your systems, the process, and you give them the right kind of guidance.
Yeah.
But again, on the flip side, I agree with you that strategic help and support, you can't do that in the same manner. They don't understand our culture, our business, our legislation, our rules and regs, and all of the advice that you really need of UK law and the guidance. So I think if you get that blend right, I think there's a good medium there in the middle.
Yeah. I think it's mainly around, the skill set is incredible. Like, the same qualification that we have here in the UK is now worldwide, right? So whether it's ACCA, the likes of CTA, all, you can do it anywhere in the world. So whether it's India, Pakistan, Philippines, there are individuals who are doing the same qualification. I think where the barrier is the proximity to the client. Once you having this conversation, face to face, open hearted, it's much more value than transactional. Okay, this is your P&L, this is your management accounts. You need to speak to so and so for payroll, you need to speak to so and so for this. But then you're a business owner, you have a business to run. You want somebody to bring it all together, and that will only happen when you have that point of contact.
Absolutely. What advice do you wish you ignored? Which advice do you wish you didn't take on board?
What advice I wish
you ignored?
I wish I ignored. Wow. I've been so much of typically I would always push myself to, not so much of calling it a rule breaker, but I'd like to test always things. So when I get advice, I'm always questioning whether it's right for me. It's very seldom I will take advice and run with it. I always have that questioning mindset. Could it work? Will it work? So it's a hard question. I can't recall a time where I've actually got somebody said to me, do this. There is, and this person is going to probably listen to this episode and not be happy about it, is that the advice was to do cold outreach to individuals, like speak to business owners, set a target every day or every week. It was 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes a week to spend on connecting with individuals, dropping them a message in terms of if they needed support with their accounting. Is extremely, this is the hardest thing for me to put myself forward, like from a selling perspective. So I tried it, and it's extremely uncomfortable for, when you're doing something that doesn't come naturally to you. Sometimes you want to pursue and you see if you can do it, but this, after pursuing it, you want to basically, what I learned from that is I need to put my energy where I am good at. Certain things which I'm not good at, it's better I don't do. So maybe that's one example where I said, okay, I need to try this out, and gave it a go, but it's extremely draining for me. If I have to pick up the phone and say, oh, do you need an accountant? Wow. It's hard. It's very hard.
I've got to commend you, because you said something which is really important there. And what you said is, if I remember the words, was what works for me. And I think that's really powerful, because that might work for other people. But it's about knowing yourself and trying it, testing it, and recognizing actually that doesn't work or it does work, and you kind of navigate your way through what is right for you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of businesses kind of oversee that, and I think black and white, that a business needs to do X, Y, and Z, and you get them results. Yeah, of course you have fuel in and output out, and all of that, that good stuff, but it's not right for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's really good that you recognize that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is I learned from business owners themselves, right? Because one business owner could say, "Okay, Pavan, just tell me how much can I take home from the business this month? That's all I need to know." Other business owners will say, "How much do I need to set aside for? All I'm worried about is the tax bill. Just tell me how much I need to set aside for the tax bill." So it varies. Everyone is different. Some want to go down the route of they will see something online and they say, "I want these 6 metrics, net profit margin." And I said, "Do you understand this?" And they're like, "We think we do." I was like, "But then you first understand it. Let's go through it together. Understand what it means for you, and then you implement it." So there's no one size fits all like we know for anything. It's just what works for you. You need to see, and that's what I do with the advice that I get.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I've got a note here, worldwide disclosure. Tell me more.
Oh, this is a big one. It's
Finish on a
definitely not a quick fire. So give you a backstory of this. Yeah. Okay. So I came in 20 years ago to the UK, and when I came in, the most common investment advice you will get from any person anywhere of Indian origin was, "Oh, it's a no-brainer. Just put your money in a fixed deposit, FD as it's called in India. It's tax-free and you don't need to pay any tax on it."
Okay.
That has now spiraled for the past 20 years. And it's always been this conversation I've had wherever social gathering. This is always the advice. And you'll get this from accountants as well until about a few years ago. That, this is tax-free. So invest it in a fixed deposit, and the returns you get like 9%, 10% back in the day, 20 years ago. Now it's come to light that this is required to be disclosed in your UK tax return. It's part of worldwide disclosure. When you're a resident in the UK, you're meant to declare your worldwide income. And there's so much confusion around this. People thought that, it was only on the back of April 2025 rules changing, with all the high earners leaving the UK. This has got so many people sleepless nights, because you can imagine people of Indian origin, if they worked some part of their life, they have some savings there, very naturally they've put it in a savings account, which is like a fixed, instead of a regular savings, it would be in a fixed deposit, because savings account would be like 4-5%, fixed deposit much more, makes sense, tax free, and nothing wrong with, in the banks in India say that this is tax free. They're not incorrect, because it's tax free in India, but they don't say, you need to check your legislation where you're living, whether you need to declare this income.
Wow.
So from a UK perspective, HMRC says you need to declare your worldwide income, and it's only off late, because of this information exchange between India and UK. How often I've got this question asked, that how will UK know about my fixed deposit? Now it's come to light that UK HMRC has information of all these fixed deposits, and they are now clamping down. It's become so common. It's called a worldwide disclosure campaign. A letter comes in through your post to say, we are aware of we also see details of the bank accounts with the amounts that they've held. I have had clients who received letters, 26 bank accounts.
Wow.
Because it's a strategy. It's an investment strategy. You don't want to lock in all your funds into one, because you can split your, break your FD, if you want to call it. If you need like £5,000, you break an FD, you have 5K in your bank, and you can do whatever it is, whether you're in India, you spend it. And now this is causing so much sleepless nights between, and I get this mainly from people of Indian origin, because this information exchange, I haven't seen it with other nationalities. Maybe it is already happening, but So now the options are very limited because they need to come forward. HMRC is already aware of what information has not been disclosed. They need somebody who's skilled and qualified enough to take this to HMRC and say, listen, okay, this is our intention to disclose. We are coming forward with an offer based on this reason. A, B, C are the exemptions and allowances we want to claim, and put an offer amount, and that way put a bed to this situation. Because this is, there are so many individuals. It's so natural. Like I said, if you spent one part of your life there, it need not even have been that you spent time there and have had savings there. It could be assets that you've inherited from your parents, which has, you wouldn't even know that it's been transferred to you. This is how transactions happen, right, in India. Parents would just pass on their properties in their children's names. Children don't know what properties they have because parents don't want to share. Sometimes, because they don't want to get their children to be too lazy about, I've got this multi-million empire. The amount of conversations, Rashpal, that, has opened up with some clients and people who have had, many of them didn't even know the asset pool that they were sitting on.
Wow.
We're talking multi-million. So important because there are people who are still sitting and hoping, maybe on the back of somebody's advice, to say, okay, UK will never know, or just sign and declare and say that there's nothing to declare. But they don't realize the implications that once you've signed and said there's nothing to declare, that's on record. And it's just a matter of time where this comes back full circle with HMRC now spending on AI. It's just becoming, it's not a matter of if HMRC will know. I think it's a matter of when HMRC will know. So if you act proactively, put forward, make your disclosure, ultimately you just want to have an easy life ahead, and you don't want these surprises because they can displace you, literally in the literal sense as well. So so it's a very not to end on a grim note, but it's just ended up that way. But I think if anyone wants to get any value or something to think about, is maybe a good opportunity to come forward, because there's different types of disclosures, a prompted and a unprompted. So if HMRC reach out to you, obviously the penalties, the repercussions are much more severe. But if you go forward, there's that conversation to be had. Because HMRC, when they apply penalties, they look at intention and behavior.
Of course.
If there's no intention and you're delaying and you've lapsed and you have excuses that, oh, this was actually funds by my brother who was getting divorced and he transferred the funds to me and it's not actually my money, and the excuses and the stories that I've had maybe potentially all true, but from HMRC's perspective, they just want to know, okay, you've earned the money, it's in your account, you need to have declared this at the time when it needed to be. Take your tax, because people also rely on the double tax treaty. The fallback is always, oh, there's double tax treaty. But yes, double tax treaty is meant to save you tax if you're paying in one country and not in the other. But it doesn't say that you'll not have tax to pay in any country. There's the best, like they say, death and taxes. Overly optimistic. So definitely worth, whoever's listening to come forward and say, this is where we are. What can we do to improve? Just like put a bed to this situation.
Of course. Well, I don't think it was grim at all. I think it's actually quite educational and definitely opens up the opportunity to have the conversations for the right people that might fall into that space. And and I think from any kind of legal or compliance point of view, it's always about making sure everything's clear and concise.
Absolutely.
And when you muddy the water, there's an opportunity to ask the question, what was the intent here? And if the intent feels like, are you trying to hide something or not disclose something, then that's where more questions then start to be asked. So I think it's a good way to kind of wrap up the time that we've been an hour and 15 minutes. Wow. I can't believe the time has flown. But I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've covered lots of questions. You've given lots of depth and insights into the world of your expertise on accounts and numbers. There's more questions. I'm going to circle back to you afterwards as well. So do reach. I am going to reach out to you. But thank you for your time. I hope our audience enjoyed it, and I hope any questions that they've got, they'll reach out to you and share them in the comments as well. But again, thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.